All right, so for this video, I actually wanted to sort of do like a rant or an info dump on controlled opposition, right? Which is basically this is something that I've seen. Like I stumbled upon a video by Bill Cooper, who actually talked about like Alex Jones and how he's a controlled opposition misinformation agent, and how he's an. I mean, like the world's a stage. I mean, like most of the people propped up by the system are just actors at this point. I mean, Trump's an actor, Elon's an actor, Joe Rogan, Alex Jones. I mean, they're all actors playing on a stage, and none of the stuff that they say is real. Like one of the people who pisses me off the most is Joe Rogan, right? Like he's one of those people who really pisses me off because he first of all, like I feel like only room temperature IQ people take him seriously. First of all, because I mean you see like the way he plays stupid in all of his podcasts. He's like, what? I didn't know that. And then he talks about like chimps and DMT and all this other. And one of the things that also pisses me off is the fact that he talks about safe conspiracy theories. He never goes into like the real like satanic ritual abuse, the Draco reptilians, the Saturn moon matrix. Like he never invites people like I think about like David Icke, for example. Like how is it that he's inviting Alex Jones and Eddie Bravo and they talk about the crazy shit that they talk about, and how is it that Joe Rogan talks about DMT elves, machine elves and DMT jesters all the time. But as soon as you say lizard people, oh, that's too crazy. There's no evidence for that. Like, what the fuck? You serious? Right, like that pisses me off. And also, it reminds me of like this one video of like when Eddie Bravo brought up like Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell's like suicides, right? And basically, what happened is that he talked about like obviously like they were making a documentary called The Silent Children. You might want to look that up if you want to do some research on that. But basically, it talked about child trafficking and stuff like that. So obviously, I mean, like obviously, there's a whole conspiracy around like, oh, okay, did they actually commit suicide or did they just like did they commit suicide because of the fact that they messed with the wrong people, right? And you can see like Eddie Bravo bringing this up, right? And then Joe Rogan's all like avoiding guy content. He's like, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to get in trouble, right? And I'm all watching that and I'm thinking, in trouble with who, Joe? It's like is the Joe Rogan podcast really? Is it really? Does it really belong to Joe Rogan? Right? Does he speak for himself? It's the same thing with all these government shills like Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, Richard Doty, Hal Potoff, right? David Grush, right? The people propped up by the system because their opinions are either safe and not dangerous to the system, or they promote like they promote, like the opposite of of what's actually happening, right? Like it's almost like there's a sort of line that these people just won't cross, right? And it's almost like it's like a here and no further kind of line where it's like as soon as it's like okay, we'll talk about like the flat Earth and whether or not space is fake, and we'll talk about like the DMT realm, we'll talk about aliens and stuff like that. But as soon as you start mentioning demons, Draco reptilians, right? As soon as you start mentioning like the spiritual elements of all this, as soon as you start mentioning satanic ritual abuse, as soon as you start mentioning like controlled opposition, like the stuff in Hollywood, like it's almost like these people in general. Like, I'm not just saying Joe Rogan, but I'm saying Alex Jones. I'm saying Donald Trump. I mean, I'm saying I mean Elon Musk obviously he's a front man, but I digress on that. I'm going to talk about that later on. But all these people have a line that they just won't cross. And it's like okay, and it's like in order for me to like maintain my podcast and to maintain my reputation, I have to say politically correct, right, and not talk about all this fringe stuff because people talk about like the New World Order all the time, and people talk about like the World Economic Forum, and people talk about taking away people's gun rights, and people talk about like AI and all this other stuff. People talk about that, but as soon as you mention the spiritual, demonic sort of element behind all of this, right, they'll just like stop, they'll just cease, and they don't even want to talk about it, or they'll like subtly like interrupt the person talking and try to say, okay, let's talk about something else. And it's cowardly, to be honest. Like the energy that I pick off of them, to pick up off of them whenever I see that shit it's cowardly. It really is. I mean, the fact that they don't want to talk about the truth because it's too uncomfortable or it's too unpopular, because their worldly possessions and their their podcasts and their businesses and their reputation and their commercial success is more important than talking about any actual truth, right? Because and this is the thing, if you look at like Serge Monast, Gary Webb, David Icke, right? You look at like those people, like Stanley Meyer with his water powered car, right? It's either you get assassinated or they try to assassinate your reputation, and like this, and if that doesn't work, then like the system just ignores you, pretends you don't exist. I mean, Bill Cooper got, he got murked too, right? And those are the people that you should be listening. Think about Project Bluebeam. That's another thing that these government agents won't talk about. They promote this idea of like the sci-fi version of the alien invasion instead of like the actual Nephilim, fallen angel, like sort of nature of these entities, right? Which is that they're going to create a fake invasion to support the real invasion behind the scenes, right? That they live is an accurate depiction of the alien invasion we're experiencing right now, right? Non-human entities operating from the unseen, disguised as humans, but they're going to say, oh, okay, it's like Independence Day. They're going to say like, oh, there's aliens invading us, so we need to consolidate government power, and then that's when there's no more countries, there's no more nations. It's a single nation controlled by a small group of people, controlling 8 billion people, right? But but yeah, I just really wanted to sort of talk about like controlled opposition and like the sort of here and no further sort of line that people won't cross, because obviously the people who cross that line, the people who say like who start to sort of poke at the belly of the beast, the people who start poking out like, oh, okay, like this is what's really going on, those are the people who like the Matrix is like, stop, and they assassinate them, or they ruin their reputation, and they try to like ignore the, oh, he's crazy, and they get laughed at by everyone because and because the system is okay with you talking about flat Earth. The system is okay with you talking about like the world staying in the physical, staying safe, staying politically correct, staying with like all the stories that don't matter. But as soon as you hit into that, also like another thing that like the people won't talk about, and I might lose a lot of people here, but people won't talk about like the Talmud and Judaism and their and like the Moloch worship that goes on, right? And how their religious texts support. Like think about like the tunnels under the synagogues in New York, right? The bloodstained mattresses, right? Like the booster seats for children that they had in there, right? I don't care if you call me anti-Semitic for saying that, but but these people just won't talk about it. They feel extremely uncomfortable talking about it because they've been so programmed that they just cower in the face of saying any actual truth, and they try to silence it. And I just wanted to sort of talk about that and sort of rant about that, because I've seen, because it feels like I've been deceived, and even like people like I say David Icke a lot, but like even he might be controlled opposition. Who knows, right? But I think that the message of this video for the people watching is that it's really important to identify controlled opposition, and one of the best ways to identify controlled opposition is that, are their opinions and the things that they're talking about, are they playing it safe? That's the best way, because yet again, there's a line where it's like here and no further. As soon as you start mentioning real shit, they shut up real quick because they don't want to talk about it, because their handlers tell them not to talk about it, right? And so I just wanted to, and so I think that's like the first sign of a controlled opposition agent, right? And the second sign I think is like popularity, right? And I'm not saying that you can't be popular and talk about real shit, right? But I do feel like the more popular someone is, the more skeptical I am of them, right? Because if you think about like Alex Jones versus Bill Cooper, right? You look at like the commercial success that people think about, like Joe Rogan. Like you think about the commercial success that he has, and like the way he's propped up by all the algorithms, the way he's propped up by the entire system, right? The way Elon is propped up as like, oh, he's just a billionaire, he's just a silly guy and stuff like that. The way Trump is propped up, right, by the system, right? The more popular, the more not popular necessarily, but the system props them up to be popular. Like it's system assisted. I think that's a second sign of controlled opposition, is that they're way too popular, way too quickly, and they're propped up by the algorithm or by everything else. They're supported by the system. They have help from the system. That's a second sign, that they have help by the system. The system helps them technologically, financially, right? They get to keep their business, they get to keep their reputation, that like their family is safe, they're not getting harassed by government agents, right? And because that's the type of stuff that happens, right? Is that people's lives get ruined when they get too close to the truth. Their children get taken away, they get assassinated, they get laughed off of any talk show, right? Like they're called crazy by everyone. They get silenced anytime they try to talk about any real shit, right? So I think that's the second sign of controlled opposition. Just like just thinking out loud, is that controlled opposition agents, not like, number one, they play it safe, they play it politically. When they talk about conspiracy theories, they play it safe. They don't talk it that there's a line that they won't cross. They won't talk about some of the stuff that's actually going on, right? They'll play it safe with like the right wing versus left wing stuff. They'll talk about all the mainstream stuff, right? So that's the first sign, is that they play it safe. There's a line that they won't cross, where they won't talk about any actual shit. Secondly, they're supported by the system. They're propped up by the system. They're way too popular to be dangerous to the system, because as soon as you become dangerous to the system, right, that's when your reputation goes down, down the drain. Your career suicide. Your career's down the drain. Your life is down the drain. Your funds are down the drain because of all like the legal battles. They take away your business. They try to steal your children, right? Because like, oh, you're mentally ill. You can't father children. And then of course those children, as uncomfortable as it sounds, they get shipped away, to the underground bases, or to like the Diddy party, the private islands. That's exactly what happened, and it's organized, right? Yet again, these shills won't talk about that stuff because it's too unsafe, right? They'll be okay with talking about aliens and flat Earth and DMT and all the physical stuff, right? All the right wing versus left wing stuff, right? They'll stay on the Masonic checkerboard. They'll talk about the silly game stuff, the stuff that plays out as a game, the distraction. Think about Luigi Mangione and the United Healthcare thing. That's like Luigi Mangione. He's a Lee Harvey Oswald. He's a fall guy, right? Like, what is it that, like, yet again, that news story of like the healthcare, like the United Healthcare assassination, way too propped up by the system. Yet again, going to the second sign of a controlled opposition, right? Way too popular, way too propped up by the system, propped up by the media, right? Like the news media, the mainstream media, supporting, certain figures. Think about it. And another person that I think about is like Tucker Carlson, right? As another controlled opposition agent, right? That yet again playing in like the right wing, left wing, system, program, right? The false duality, right? And just thinking out loud, I'm trying to list as many control opposition agents as I can. Like, just thinking off the top of my mind. I don't follow a lot of people because I try to, just think for myself, But I don't know. I think David Icke is like a lot less likely, but he still might be controlled opposition. Who knows? I mean, he's still alive, which is a red flag. I mean, it is kind of a red flag if someone's still alive after a lot of time, but he seems to be a lot more genuine than someone like Alex Jones, who's just, yet again trying to make serious information seem unserious. Um, oh my gosh, who else? I'm just trying to think of as many people as I possibly can. Who might be control opposition, who might be there. I mean, literally every politician, um, every talk show host. I mean, MK Ultra. Think about like the Jimmy Fallon's MK Ultra laugh, right? I mean, you have that. You have I mean, and Trump's another person who's like, okay, like obviously he's controlled opposition, but he's a messiah and like a savior to so many people. People deify Donald Trump, even though he's just another fat billionaire politician who's friends with Epstein, right? I mean, it's like he was buddies with Epstein, and you think this guy? I mean, obviously, look at like the QAnon stuff. Obviously, that's a psyop, right? Yet again, people giving away, and I've talked about this in other videos. People giving away their power so that people sit on their hands and do nothing, right? Jesus is coming back. The Buddha is gonna save us, right? Like there's gonna be an apocalypse and justice will come, and so people sit on their hands and do fuck all, nothing, because there's a savior figure. But all of those savior figures, every one of them propped up by the system, controlled opposition, right? You're the opposition. You're the real opposition, right? I think that's a good message for this video. You're the real opposition, not any one of them. You know. But yeah, that's the video.